Today, we're going to be talking about AI change management. So, change management specifically for AI situations. There is a lot going on right now with AI resistance and concerns. People are worried about AI. A lot of these initiatives want to be successful. And, a lot of the tried and true principles of change management still apply, but there are some differences, some things to think about with AI. So, what I've done is I've taken together what I've been seeing going on in others, research, personal experience, and also work experience, and I've kind of put it all together to synthesize it into this video and an accompanying blog post and newsletter. So let's dive into it. I'm going to click through here. And I put my video in the corner now. It shouldn't overlap the slides. So this is kind of an overview of what we're going to go over through today. So we're going to go over these 10 aspects. I do want to just do a hat tip to John Cotter. I think leading change is still seminal for change management. So if you want to get deeper into this, I would start with that. There's like an 8-step model there. But here we're talking about these 10 things as they kind of specifically apply in what I'm seeing with AI change management. So I'm going to go over all of these in more detail. So first with the vision. So I see this happen a lot right now, that there are these mandates that are being passed down from upper management. Sometimes it's even from one holding company to a subsidiary company. And these mandates might state things like, by the end of the year, you have to be using 20% of your team has to be using AI, or we want to see 30% cost reduction in time spent in development or something using AI, right? Like, so these are kind of like AI driven mandates. And while these can be effective, the problem that I see and people I'm talking to are seeing is that these don't translate very well into something that really kind of carries people. So instead, here are some examples of a vision that can be inspiring to you and to your team. So here's 3 different examples. The first one is AI is here to help you to eliminate the repetitive work so you can do more of the things you want to be doing, or AI remembers how to do some things. You don't have to do it repeatedly over and over. These are just some examples, but something like this is something that's going to inspire people a lot more than just hitting a target number. The next, this shouldn't be too hard, but it is worth mentioning. There is always inertia with change. And so in order to overcome that inertia of people just not wanting to change, because why would you, if things are good, there's not necessarily a dire need for change. You need some urgency in order to overcome that natural inertia that everyone has. And so, there's different ways to do that, but I would say urgency being communicated is really important. And I think education around the agency always helps. If you can get people to understand why something is urgent or important, people will move more with you than if you just tell them it's urgent and they need to do it right away, but no explanation as to why. Time constraints are important, so things just don't become procrastination. And then, your organization may need to integrate some kind of motivations into the urgencies. That could be whatever you want it to be. Could be bonuses, could be changing the targets that teams are required to hit. But I would say that's in combination with the vision and the education around the urgency factors. So in terms of leadership commitment, one thing that I would also like to warn against is just making an edict, a proclamation, and then stepping away. So I think leadership that can also embody the same vision in their own work and practice is going to lead by example. So, if your commitment is to reduce the amount of grindy, mundane work that people in your team are doing, what are you doing in your own practice as a leader to also eliminate repetitive work? Or what are you doing to educate yourself into AI so that you're also leading by example? If you're not able to do this, it's going to be harder to kind of get your team behind you because you're not leading by example. You're just like, go learn this thing, go do this thing, and bye. I'll check in again in 3 months. I hope you hit your targets. It's going to be a lot less compelling. You want to lead the charge if you can. So next level is the listening to your team. So make sure you're dedicating time to that. Oh, I want to check if there was a book on that. Yeah. So on the previous slide, there's so many books on this, but one that I like a lot in terms of this leadership commitment is by Peter Drucker. It's an older book, Effective Executive, but I think it's quite timeless. So, okay. On this next slide for listening to your team, So here, this is part is really important, and I'm going to talk about the last thing first, which is the first principles. So not only should you be listening to your team to really understand, what are their problems, what are their concerns, specifically as it relates to this AI initiative that you want to be doing, but also overall, it's a good opportunity to kind of touch in with your team if you haven't done that in a while. And you might surface up frustrations, concerns, worries. These things might not even be related to the AI project, but they might have been building. And then the fact that now you're wanting to do this initiative is going to bring these concerns to the surface, right? It's like the needle, what is it, the expression? The straw on the camel's back, that's the one that breaks the camel's back, right? So it could be one of those factors or effects that are going on. There is a book, it's actually interesting, it's not for business, it's actually for relationships, but it's called Getting to Zero by Jason Gaddis. And this book is awesome. I highly recommend this for all relationships, whether they're personal, um, friendships that are important to you, but also business relationships with partners and also interacting with your team. It's so good. But yeah, the book talks a lot about really getting to that at the 0 point where you've cleared out everything that's bothering you, so you're really able to understand each person's needs and points of view. And from there, if you can really clear it all out, you remove miscommunication, misunderstandings, missed expectations, assumptions, like all of those things that just gnaw away at organizations and partnerships, and all these kind of things kind of like smooth out from that. So very practical book too. So highly recommend that. Okay, building a coalition. So this is an interesting part of it. So if you've got people in the group and some of them are more resistant to change than others, are those people the outliers, or are they actually the people in your organization that your team also looks up to? So kind of understanding that is important. And sometimes the people who are the strongest resistors can actually become the advocates of the system or solution once their needs or their concerns or their problems, which might be their own, but they might be speaking for the group, right? Because they're the advocates of their team. Once those needs have been addressed, you might see a complete flip around in that. So, and then in that coalition, I would say make sure you have not just the people who are influencers or resistors identified, but also who are your main experts, right? Make sure you're bringing people into that change that also really understand the type of change that's going to be brought in and what are going to be the benefits of it, what are the risks, concerns. The more knowledgeable you have people in this coalition, the more effective it's going to be. All right, now for objective alignment. So I think it's great and it's totally fine for leadership. It's natural, normal for leadership to have their own kind of top of the line, bottom of the line. That's just what we're responsible for as leaders, especially as CFOs, or maybe you're the executive of the company. This is crucial. This is what keeps the lights on, keeps the business profitable, and so forth. Education of the team in terms of how increasing that top of the line revenue or decreasing expenses with bottom of the line, whether it's time or money, is important that people understand that, so there's buy-in. But I would say you also can benefit from, it's not an either or. I would say you can also combine that by framing the improvements that you're doing in terms of also the team's bottom up advantages. So for people, it's going to be a lot of doing more of what they love and doing less of the things that they don't want to be doing that are just annoying to them or time consuming. So a system that goes in and removes 10 hours of work from someone who had to just click through a website, and now you've got an AI operator that does the clicking through for them and downloads documents and scans them, and then all they have to do is look at the results and make decisions based on that. You've freed up a lot of their time. Most people are giddy when you tell them that that's what you're going to be doing for them. So reframing things in terms of how you're helping the team to augment their productivity and help them to do more of like the creative, intellectual expertise work that they want to be doing, you're just going to get buy-in with that too, right? So very important. Okay, this is kind of the big slide of, the the big thing with AI going on right now. There's so much different kinds of resistance here. I can talk all about this for like a long time. So, but I'm going to try and keep it concise. I would say I would categorize this into these four icons. So one of them is just this fear that is existential about AI. Also, the branding, artificial, doesn't make it sound great, and then intelligence makes people feel inadequate. Or, now there's this thing that's smarter than me. So the branding of even the words AI is just terrible, honestly. But it is what it is. We're calling it AI. I mean, AI has been around for decades. Just Gen AI, these generative texts, which are these um, text-based systems that just are really good autocomplete systems, have been branded as AI, and so there's all this like negative marketing around it. So that's the big brother kind of like aspect of it, the pyramid there. The loss of self-worth or the inability to get work or the job replacement fears. Then there's the ethics and morality. And then the final icon here in the bottom right is for trustworthiness, right? Can you trust the outputs? Are you getting actual really good information, or is it going to make mistakes, and are those mistakes going to get you into trouble? So I'd say from those four kind of categories, the biggest tool that we have to overcome those really is education. So the more, and a lot of studies have shown this, and I didn't put the links to the studies in here, but I believe they're in the blog post. But yeah, there's like 4 or 5 sources, and there's even more. But the more educated people are about AI, it's shown everywhere that the people who are the least afraid of AI replacing them and the least afraid of AI takeover and also AI change are the people who understand AI. So if you help people to understand what it is, they learn not only what it can do, but they also learn what it cannot do, where its limits are. Those learning limitations of the system is so important for so many reasons. It's going to make them feel empowered, right? Because now they understand strengths and weaknesses, but it's also going to help them to use AI more effectively because they're not going to use it in places where it's not actually adequate or correct or good to be using it. And then they'll learn how to overcome things like trust issues, hallucination problems, how to check sources, and so forth. So the education is multifaceted and very important. And through the education, you can also address other concerns too, like ethical and moral concerns. Sorry. And I give one example here. This URL is very long from Google, but I'll try and put the link in the comments. But this is an article, for example, from Google that is saying that while AI energy usage started off very high, it's getting lower and lower, and they actually have been optimizing it quite a bit. So the energy costs are just going down and down and down. And yeah, anyway, I don't want to go more into that because that would just shoot the time of this presentation even further up. So in terms of experimentation, so this is, I think it's important, which is why I included it in these slides, but I don't think it's essential. I think this is something that really depends on the culture, your team, the type of people that you have. It could be something where you ask people if this is something that is important or interesting to them to do. I do think you need to put a container in experimentation. When projects that are AI fail, a lot of the times it can be an experiment is just replicated across an organization, but it wasn't properly assessed. An example of that could be, let's say, a tool that records your meetings, and then those meeting recordings are sent out to the people who are in the meeting. But maybe it doesn't integrate with your sales and marketing systems. Maybe you would have preferred having a system that gives you reports afterwards of performance of the people on the call to give them tips. Or maybe it's not even part of your policy, your AI governance, and you're worried that these meetings are being recorded on a system where it's not safe now. And you have to like roll that back and redo it. Or maybe adoption isn't done by a certain department because they wanted it to integrate with their sales marketing and they're using a different system because they're also experimenting, and you got like chaos. So experimentation needs to be controlled, but it can be really awesome for getting that inspiration, getting those juices flowing, making AI feeling like an exciting new thing to explore rather than the scary thing that's being imposed upon me, right? And it can generate really good initiatives and ideas that you, your team, and so forth can then look at and then apply in a systematized way with clear objectives and ROIs and so forth within those departments or the company at large, whatever makes the most sense. All right, next is integration rather than disruption. So AI processes that are going to augment are going to be less disruptive. So by that, I mean, if something makes your job quicker, but it doesn't replace the way you were doing it, it doesn't become required, at least, not in that initial kind of use phase, you get a chance to use it before you have to use it, right? So those kinds of spacing that in a little bit can be very helpful. Or if something's helping you to do research and it used to take you 4 hours per, let's say it's a lead, you're doing 4 hours of manual research per lead. Now you've got an AI system that does that for you. You get a chance to use it, give feedback, see where it's helping you, where it's not. Maybe you're actually impressed with it, but it's still not quite doing what you do manually. So you're integrating it, right? You're not just saying like you have to use this and you can't do any of your own research or something like that. So that's helpful. Parallel systems, I even have a diagram of this. So, if you can build your architecture, your approach to the AI so that your old and new approaches still exist in parallel for a period of time until people are comfortable to make that switch, that's very helpful. Um, Phased rollouts, so doing things progressively or having a stage for that integration. And then the last one is, this is more just architecturally, but if you're using microservices, is also quite helpful because you can, if you have an entire ecosystem and you compartmentalize each piece of it, you can implement the AI augmentation within one section of that tool, software, or your business. And then you can switch in and out those augmented services as you go. So that's the microservices a part of it. And then we're getting to the end. So feedback loops. So I would say here there are two feedback loops. We're mainly talking about people right now. So the people feedback loop is really important. I would say try and get the AI solutions out. Make those projects small rather than big. And by small, I mean quick to release. The project can keep going after it releases, but get the plane up in the air fast. And then after that, get the fuel in the plane to keep going and use the feedback to keep improving it. You want lots of loops in your AI projects to really get that, to really hit the expectations of what you're trying to achieve with the results that you're looking at, to get that accuracy or to get that usability or usefulness of it. You do also want to integrate AI feedback loops, and those feedback loops can be both human to AI and AI to AI. And so the human to AI part of it would be if you have an AI system and it's not giving you the output that you want, don't just say, oh, it sucks, it's not ready. Record what it is that the AI system isn't doing correctly yet, and then find a way in your approach to take that feedback and to continuously improve the AI system with that feedback. So that feedback loop is really important to also improve the AI system or knowledge, whatever it might be, or its answers, right? When it's giving the wrong answer, educate the AI system as to why. And then ultimately, you can also integrate in some AI looping back into AI feedback loops where the AI itself sees a problem or an issue with its own output, and then it makes its own recommendations on how it could improve its own knowledge or process or system. And then a human can then look at that review and then apply that or not based on, that can even help speed up that feedback loop process itself. This is, we've come to the end. So, I just want to conclude with, if we were trying to maximize performance here with an AI system by increasing our productivity or our top bottom line or all these other things, there's this formula that Blumberg and Pringle put together, which is, I think it was a while back, which is this performance equals ability, motivation, opportunity, multiplication. So if this is true and it's multiplication and your motivation is 0 because people are resisting or they don't want this change, doesn't matter how much you're increasing their ability with AI or how much added new opportunities being created, you're still going to get 0 performance. So change management, really important. I hope you found this useful. Leave me a comment. If you like what you're hearing, you want other people to also see these videos, it does help to like the videos. It's a pretty new channel. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.